Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Purdy Insurance. Visit Purdy Insurance on Market Street in Sunbury or visit online at purdyinsurance.com. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And welcome into another Steve Jones Show as we wrap up July with you on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Sean Carey here, and Steve will be in the Sunbury Motors Studio. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Lots of ways to get in contact with us. Our email is stevejones@wkok.com, stevejones@wkok.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Twitter handle at stevejonespsu. You'll find our website as well, stevejonesshow.com, with 3 months of shows there on the podcast archive page. And also, speaking of the podcast, we invite you to subscribe to that on Apple Podcast app, iTunes, Google Play. After we air the shows live here on WKOK, we can drop them to your smartphone and tablets. You can listen to them anytime, anywhere, and that'll be a great resource for the Penn State football fans as we get ever so closer to starting practice and the 2018 season. Getting closer. Looking forward to that. Also looking forward to some Philadelphia sports talk today. Matt Leon from News Radio 1060, KYW, Philadelphia. Check in from Philly, give us what's going on within the first week here of Eagles training camp, and we'll talk Phillies as well. Phillies tonight, 6:35 for On Deck, 7:10 first pitch on WKOK on 1070 AM as the Phillies will be visiting Fenway Park for a brief interleague series. Phillies remain in first place in the National League East, leading the Atlanta Braves by 1.5 games. But after belting a team record 7 home runs in the opener last Thursday night in Cincinnati, they stopped hitting, did not pitch, and lost 3 in a row to the Reds. And now they got to take on the sizzling Red Sox. They have won 3 in a row, 13 of their last 15 at Fenway, where they've posted the best home record in the majors at 37-14. David Price, 11-6 against Aaron Nola, and Nola's 12-3 with a 2.42 ERA. Philly starters allowed 11 earned runs in 16 1/3 innings in the last 3 games, but Nola's on the bump tonight. Kind of a homecoming tonight for Gabe Kapler. He was a member of the 2004 Red Sox team that ended the franchise's long drought with their first title since 1918, but of course that is in the distant past. Phillies will have 4 games against Boston in a 2-week span, tonight and tomorrow in Fenway, and then 2 games coming up on Tuesday, August 14th, and Wednesday, August 15th at Citizens Bank Park. Boston is as many games as 41 games above 500 for the first time since 1946. Red Sox, who lost their series opener against the Minnesota Twins, got 7 shutout innings from Nathan Eovaldi in his debut with his new team yesterday. J.D. Martinez drove in all three runs in the 3-0 win. That keeps Boston 5.5 up on the Yankees in the American League East. The Yankees will be in Fenway this weekend. 4-game series starting on Thursday night. It'll be Eovaldi facing Jay Happ. Happ won his debut with the Yankees yesterday. Took longer than expected, but the New York Jets finally signed quarterback Sam Darnold. Signed the rookie deal earlier today. First-round draft pick, 4-year contract, slotted amount of $30.2 million. That includes a $20 million signing bonus, one of the richest in Jets history. About an hour ago, emerged from the locker room in uniform, jogged to the practice field, ready to go. Jets statement, we're pleased to have Sam join the team.
Yeah, I bet
both sides wanted all along. We're eager to get him on the practice field. No kidding.
I bet they are. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So that only leaves Roquan Smith as the only unsigned draft pick. The Chicago Bears. He was number 8 overall.
Yeah, and he claims he's holding out over contract language about being suspended for illegal hits. In other words, he doesn't want to lose pay from his guaranteed contract if he is suspended for an illegal hit. I just got an invitation today to the Fall Sports Preview. It says here I have to respond by August 15th. At Front Street Station.
I'll get a text message on the 13th from Jamie. Could you have Steve reply back to me, please?
I'm sorry, I can't make it. Oh, my God. Can you imagine that? Hey, now, I want to... now, obviously, Service Electric has the contract in our area here. A lot of the state has Comcast. Do you realize that 3 of the first 4 games of the season are either BTN or Fox Sports 1 for Penn State? You realize that?
That's right. The only game that does not fit into that would be the game out in Pittsburgh, week 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and Fox Sports 1, keep in mind, Fox Sports 1 is part of this. In other words, if BTN goes, Fox Sports 1 would go with it. How about that? That's what, I mean, these are the stakes you're talking about. The talk on radio guys better be even more accurate.
No fear. You're good. We're all counting on you.
Good luck. We're all counting on you. Just what I wanted to see. Leslie Nielsen at the broadcast door. Oh, my goodness. Could you imagine that?
That would have been some great music last fall during that long delay at the Michigan State game. Played the theme song to Naked Gun.
I'm just... Yeah, that was just incredible. Woo! Oh, man. Oh, my goodness.
That's true. A lot of people don't realize that Fox owns 51% of Big Ten Network, majority owner.
Yeah. Yes. And what would happen is this. Fox Sports 1 would go with it. Not over-the-air Fox, but Fox Sports 1 would go with it. They both would be off. How about that? That's where you'd have a problem. Huge problem. Or as some people would say, huge. Who says it like that? I'm trying to think. But that's what you're looking at. A gigantic problem. Now, Penn State has nothing to do with this. This is one of those where Penn State has no control over this at all. None. Zero. And that's, Penn State benefits every day by having these great TV contracts. Now, this will be one of the ones where you're just kind of, waiting to see how it plays out because they have the contract. And that's what it comes down to. They have the contract. But 3 of the first 4, because remember, the Kent State game's on Fox Sports 1, and the Illinois game is also on Fox Sports 1. I think people have not factored that in. Now, fans are, I've been stopped more about this issue than anything else. I've been asked fewer questions about linebacker and defensive tackle in the last 10 days than I have about Comcast and BTN. And the bottom line is, again, the fact of the matter is as follows. The fact of the matter is that they're apart. They're apart to the point where Mark Silverman felt he had to say something at Big Ten Media Day. Okay. Well, they had to say something because that's how far apart they are. That's how far apart they are. Comcast, it's obvious Big Ten Network needs Comcast. That's obvious. Okay. That's that's not exactly a groundbreaking statement. They need Comcast. Just the mere financials tell you that Big Ten Network needs Comcast. Lost money. First year, no Comcast, no Time Warner. Second year, Time Warner and Comcast both came on. And when they did, Big Ten Network started making money. And that's why BTN needs them and why the Big Ten needs them. Now, why does Comcast need Big Ten Network? So, you want to look at let's just keep it in Pennsylvania, the Penn State fan and tell them, the Illinois game, go to a bar. Get Dish. Get Fios. That's what you're telling them. That's what you're telling them. You are telling the Big Ten fan and the Penn State fan that, again, this is supposed to be all about your customer, okay, your consumer. By the way, your consumer gets no say in this at all. Your consumer doesn't get a say in this. But in Pennsylvania, if you were to do a la carte, on the cable instead of bundles, Big Ten Network would make the cut. And the reason Big Ten Network would make the cut is not just football, and obviously not just men's basketball, but wrestling and volleyball and all the other sports that they carry. What do you think? ESPN's is going to carry the Penn State Iowa wrestling match? No, not going to happen. Okay. Nebraska volleyball against Penn State? Don't think so. But BTN will, and it's a perfect outlet for it to be on. They'll carry it. So each needs the other. Each needs the other. It's not as if Comcast doesn't have a history of dropping. They do have a history of dropping. That's the part that makes people uncomfortable. They already dropped BTN in the 29 non-footprint states. I have no answers to it because I don't know what the negotiating sticking points are, so I have no answers. But believe me, I'm well aware of it. Well aware of it. and I've had a lot of people bring it up to me. And look, it affects all of us. I want to be able to see games. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to sit there and watch Penn State games, but I'll watch because I'm already there. But I want to watch Penn State soccer. I watch volleyball on there. I watch wrestling on there. I watch women's basketball on there. I watch baseball, softball, lacrosse on there. Field hockey. I mean, believe me, I watch them. So it affects me just like you. It's just it'll affect you more because you want to watch football. Obviously, I don't have to worry about that. I'm last I checked, I was sitting there. All right, we will come back with more in a moment. Maybe I'll wait till like Comcast and BTN. I'm going to wait till the 11th hour to respond to Jamie on this invitation. It was nice. It was nice. I was sent an invitation.
Yeah. You got one this time.
Mine says, "Come meet the suit."
Mine doesn't say that.
My understanding is none of them do. Hey, I just want to know just something quickly. What's going to happen first? The Seattle Mariners making the playoffs or Lewis Hamilton getting passed in a Formula One race? We'll come back with more in a moment on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
For nearly 100 years, Purdy Insurance has been your locally owned, family-operated source for insurance products. With a staff of over 20 and partnerships with some of the industry's most trusted companies, Purdy has the experience and resources to get the job done. Whether you need personal, home, and auto, or complex business insurance solutions, Purdy will help you navigate through the process. Call today at 570-286-5855. Or better yet, stop in their Sunbury office to see what Purdy Insurance can do for you.
Okay, let's go to Dick and Milton. Hi, Dick.
Steve, how are you? This has nothing to do with the juggernaut, which is the Orioles the last 4 games, but I wanted to ask you this. 11 runs a game average. Anyhow, I wanted to ask you a question. Did you say last week this red shirt, I don't understand this red shirting completely. Did you say you thought it was a good thing?
Yes, I do think it's a good thing because I think it's good to give the kids experience, and I think it allows them to get experience on their clock and not be forced to be played early when maybe they're not ready.
Well, I mean, I know that part of it, and then there's a part where like kids can leave school, like the wrestlers can just leave school almost on their own automatically without even consulting anybody. In a sense,
the wrestling transfer rules different. You can just wrestle right away from anybody. There's no sitting out. So that's
well, the thing of it is, you can just literally up and leave.
Yeah.
And that's a new thing there. Basically, you don't. I guess my thing to that is that only makes the strong teams stronger, the big schools.
Well, yeah, I think in some ways it does, but at the same time, this is meant to be very student-athlete friendly. How about that?
Well, I guess my point, if somebody that wrestles like the weight class of Rutherford, to think I can go over there and wrestle next year, boom, just like that.
Right.
And that's the thing I don't like about that. I'm not saying with Penn State out. I'm just saying they needed one kid, somebody or somewhere else. Think I can go over there and wrestle right there, right now. And I guess that's my thing about that. I don't like about that.
Well, I just like the fact that
it makes the good schools better to me.
Yeah, but I also think let's take bowl games where you might have a guy not play because they want to look at their NFL career. It opens the door for a kid to play, which helps them because they're probably ready, and it also makes the bowl game more interesting. All right, Matt Leon, next half hour. Good question. I also got a couple of questions online, too.
When it comes to car buying, there's the other guy's way, and then there's the SMC way. The other guys force you into a vehicle you really don't want. The Sunbury Motors way lets you take the time you need to browse, ask questions, and take the test drive and think on it. For over 100 years, the Mertz family and all their employees have made your experience the most pleasant one you'll ever have. The other guys won't offer you the best price for your trade, no matter how much they say they will. The SMC way is their promise to provide you with the most money the market shows your vehicle is worth. The SMC way is to offer you all applicable factory rebates on new vehicles and generous discounts. Looking for a pre-owned vehicle? The SMC way checks each vehicle with a 200-mile radius to determine the lowest price, then beat it. It's the lowest price promise, just part of the SMC way. The choice is up to you, the other guy's way or the SMC way. The SMC way wins every time. Sunbury Motors Company in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and at sunburymotors.com. Selling more cars and satisfying more customers for over 100 years.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Okay, great to have you with us. Brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to PurdyInsurance.com. Purdy's have served this valley for decades, finding their customers the best insurance. Business. You have a small business. You have to have great insurance. You have to have great insurance. Small business. I know. I grew up in a small business family. You want Kevo on here on Fridays to tell you about the insurance he needs for his business? Auto, home, life, business insurance, whatever it may be. Let's go to the professionals. I mean, the real pros. You know me. I am the type, when you sit there and you work with Jack Hammond, Dick Girardi, and Sean Curry, you want to work around and be with the best. Purdy Insurance is the best. They're the pros. Thrilled to be associated with them. All right. We're in the Sunbury Motors studio. Speaking of being thrilled to be associated with Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Key Routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Matt Leon in a few moments, but, Sean, let's go to the email. Because I've got actually a couple big email ones. And then this will dovetail on some of what Dick was asking about. Dick's not comfortable with freshmen being able to play whenever. Basketball and football are really the only ones that make you sit out. I mean, for years it's been the Wild West in wrestling. I don't like it here. I'm going to go here. See it. And we are getting away from, and I know where Dick's coming from here. We're getting away from, and this came up in Williamsport on Thursday night when I spoke. Somebody asked about the transfer rule. And they said, whatever happened to loyalty and whatever happened to, waiting your turn and so forth. Because I had started my speech by discussing Tommy Stevens and Miles Sanders. I mean, Tommy Stevens graduated in May. He could go anywhere. He could leave tomorrow. Okay? But he stayed. Miles Sanders, 5-star running back, waiting his turn, stayed. Penn State fans understand that here that's been the norm, but that's not the norm anywhere else. Do you realize that in 2011, 17 grad transfers happened in college football? 17. In 2018, 200 happened. 200. Now, as for freshmen being eligible, I like the fact that they have opened this 4-game window. Dick is right. Do the rich get richer? Yeah, to a point. To a point, they get richer. But it also might help out schools trying to get themselves on the rise where they can play guys up to 4 games and maybe make their club better late in the season because somebody's ready. So, I mean, it does cut both ways. I like the fact that a guy can be on his own clock now, where suddenly, like right around Game 7, Bobby might be able to play, might be able to help us. He hasn't played any games yet. Let's get him in there for a dozen, 15 plays. See what he does.
which then may dovetail into more playing time. I'm fine with that, and I'm really in favor of it in the bowl game. Really in favor of it. You're ready to play by the time the bowl game rolls around, play. Instead of going through the practices, I think it dangles a carrot out there for the young players who aren't playing that the door is open to play. Instead of like, great. They got green light, yellow light, red light. I got the red light. That's great. All right. And look, they're 18 years old. What are they thinking? They've had success at every single level of their life, career to that point. Now this opens the door like, hey, look, you keep working. Hey, game 5, you might get in there. Game 9, you might get in there. Bowl game, you might get in there. That part I like. Okay, this email is from Matt. Matt sent me the email this afternoon at 1 o'clock. Steve, I'm just curious if something has changed since last year because I thought the training camp started a week earlier than it's scheduled for this year. I thought they started at the end of the same week of the Big Ten Media Days. Also curious if it has anything to do with freshmen being allowed to play 4 games. Thanks, Matt. Matt, it does not have anything to do with any one of those. What happened was last year, as you recall, it was, July 31 last year, the training camp began. And what they did was they eliminated two-a-days. And in Penn State's case, there were 3 two-a-days, I think, altogether. Because, so all they did was they took those practices and they tacked them on to the beginning of camp. So they took all the two-a-days where they still allowed you to have those practices, but they were in one-a-days at the beginning of camp. So they started camp earlier. Well, anybody who was sitting there going through it and watching it last year, and I think I missed 2 days at camp the whole year, maybe one day I missed. You realize that at one point that, okay, this is going on for a long time. And I was never in favor of them tacking the days onto the beginning. I was in favor of them starting on a normal start date and just not having because the extra practices, sometimes the extra practices, I kid you not, were, okay, we're going to go bowling. That counts as a practice. It's a team activity. I remember Bill O'Brien one time, Fitzy took them out behind Medler Field. They played paintball one night. It counted as a practice. All right, so you already have people getting around it anyway. So why bother tacking them on at the beginning? Normal start date, Friday, go from there. So that's what they've done, Matt. They took out the additional practices from two-a-days that were tacked on to the front of last year's practice regimen. They just took those out completely and just started on what would be the normal start date. So it has nothing to do with freshmen being allowed to play. And the reason they took them out is that, you know what, everybody pretty much agreed last year's training camp across the board in the country was too long because they put the practices on at the beginning. Next question came from Derek in State College. Longtime listener. Caught part of your show regarding lack of conference game consistency among Power 5 conferences. Can't agree more. I think I'll end it at that point. I feel pretty good about the email so far. I didn't get to hear all of it, Derek. And I wish I had time to call in to contribute to what you may have already covered. What compounds this issue that many people don't even consider is the fact that 2 of the Power 5 conferences, the ACC and the SEC, not only play 4 non-conference games, but nearly every team, if not all, plays an FCS opponent as part of their 4-game non-conference schedule. Derek's right. All right. This year, those 2 conferences played and combined 29 games against FCS teams. SEC plays 15, ACC 14. The other 3 Power 5 conferences total 19 between the Pac-12, Big 12, and Big 10. The Big 10, by the way, is playing 2 FCS teams total. Florida State is playing 2 FCS games this year alone due to one of their opponents shifting from FBS to FCS. Can't help that. It's a longer email than this, but he's absolutely right. Look, Alabama gets the benefit of the doubt more often than not. I mean, think about this. Alabama has won 2 national titles in which they were neither a divisional champ or a conference champion. You realize that? Alabama has won 2 national titles in which they were neither the division champ nor the conference champion, including this past year. Alabama was not the winner of the West. Auburn was, which, of course, means Alabama didn't compete for the SEC championship. Auburn did, lost to Georgia. But Alabama got the benefit of the doubt and, again, played Mercer the weekend before the Auburn game. And ESPN Game Day laughs this stuff off. They say ESPN Game Day seems to take everything so seriously all the time until Clemson plays Citadel and Alabama plays Mercer. And they're like, oh, well, okay. Nice guardians of college football you are. Those games should not be played at that time of the year. They should not be played in the thick of a pennant race down the stretch. Shouldn't be played. That's not who you schedule down the stretch in a pennant race. It's up to the College Football Playoff Committee to dock them for playing the game. Dock them for playing the game. Knock them down 2 spots. The next week, go, hey, shouldn't have scheduled them. Tell them straight out, you shouldn't have scheduled them. Okay, so instead of 3rd, you're now 5th. All right? Lay it out. Lay it out. Every Power 5 team, if you do not have 9 conference games, okay, every Power 5 team should be playing a minimum of 10 Power 5 teams on the during the course of the regular season. For the Big 10, Pac-12, Big 12, that means scheduling 1 non-conference Power 5 team. If you're the SEC and the ACC, better find 2. But if you don't have 10 Power 5 teams on your schedule, you will pay. There'll be a price to pay in the standings. Just my opinion. Suddenly you might see the SEC and the ACC going to 9 conference games. All right. Matt Leon joins us, KYW in Philadelphia. Hello, Matt. Great to have you with us.
Just happy to be here, sir.
Just happy to help the club. All right. Let's get to the Eagles. I don't know if I've ever seen a less drama-free offseason for a Super Bowl or world champion in anything than what we saw with the Eagles. Would that be fair?
No, I agree. I think the only drama they had was the White House issue. But other than that, as far as, holdouts, contracts, stuff like that, there were some personnel changes, which is to be expected, no matter how much success you had. But, no, I think it all went according to plan. It probably couldn't have gone much better if you were the Eagles front office.
How much does it help the organization that Nick Foles has the attitude he has?
Oh, I think it saves everything, because you could see if he didn't have the attitude that he has, that could become a very tricky and dicey situation very quickly, because they've obviously gone all in, and rightfully so, with Wentz. But what Foles did last year justifies attention and really justifies playing time. And it could easily have been something that if he forced to his issue, he either wouldn't be here anymore or would be a very uncomfortable beginning of training camp. But the exact opposite has been true.
Which then brings us to Carson Wentz. Wentz had some good opening workouts last week where, look, he's not telling anybody he's 100%. He can't do that. But at the same time, Doug Peterson is extremely cautious about all of this. Is there any pressure at all on the Eagles to even have him play it down in the preseason?
No, none at all. He's got nothing to prove. I think if he could be ready for week 1, that would be great. I think that's possible. I didn't a few months ago. I think he's ahead of schedule, and the way he looks, I think it's possible. But I don't even think that's necessary, because you have Nick Foles, and you can afford to wait until he is absolutely ready. But no pressure to even get him a series of downs here in the preseason. I think they know what they have, and the main concern is just to make sure that knee is stable, healthy, and ready to go.
He is not the only guy that had to sit out the Super Bowl with a season-ending injury. There are others. How have they fared so far in trying to get back on the field?
Everybody is on schedule. Guys like Jason Peters, who I think some people thought when he got hurt last year that it might be the end of the road, but he is back. There are a handful of guys who had like off-season surgery after the Super Bowl. They had played through injury. Guys like Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Graham, that started on the PUP, but they can be activated at any time. I don't think there's any concern big picture. But all signs are go right now as far as this team health-wise. If they can get back to some of the guys they had that missed their Super Bowl run, there's a possibility, even as defending Super Bowl champs, they could be even better this year.
Okay. When you look at the preseason, what are a couple of areas that you think the Eagles will take a long, hard look at to make sure they're even better coming up for the upcoming year?
I think linebacker is one. Yeah. If there was a place I had to point to that say, I don't even know if I want to say weakness, but the shakiest position as far as quality of the starters combined with depth, it would probably be linebacker. I think they've got to figure out some things at cornerback. I think they've got the talent. They've just kind of got to figure who's going to be that nickel guy, who's going to start on the outside. I think your offensive line is pretty well set. Your running backs, you don't have LeGarrette Blount anymore, but you do have Jay Ajayi at full strength, and Corey Clement, I think his postseason run kind of moved him up on the depth chart and could see him take a bigger role. I think you got to feel pretty good. I think Mike Wallace over Torrey Smith at the wide receiver position is a little bit of an upgrade. Mm-hmm. They're loaded at tight end with Zach Ertz in the back and the rookie top draft pick Dallas Goedert. This is a team that's not just good, but you really go across the board a lot of places. They can roll in two separate defensive lines, and you feel pretty good about it. Maybe could use a little more depth at defensive tackle only because Timmy Jernigan's kind of a question mark right now after he got hurt weightlifting in the offseason. You don't quite know when he's going to be coming back, and it might not be till midway through the season or so. But they're in a good spot. I mean, the NFL, things can change on a dime, and things that look great in July can look disastrous in October. But I think between their talent, between the kind of offseason they had, even as a defending champ where there wasn't drama, and their depth, they're in a really good spot right now.
It's interesting because one of the guys that pushed really hard for them to draft Dallas Goedert was Carson Wentz. The North Dakota State guy wanted them to draft the South Dakota State guy.
Yeah, and he's been everything you thought he could be. I mean, they had a lot of they were dangerous last year with Trey Burton as that number 2 tight end. Yeah. And I think they're going to do a lot of interesting things with Ertz and Goddard. I think it's going to be fun to watch.
All right, let's get to the Phillies now. The Phillies get the Red Sox the next 2 games. So the split series, 2 at Fenway, and then I think, next week or the week after, they got 2 in Philadelphia. So they got the Red Sox tonight. Now, the good news is they will not see Chris Sale, and they will not see Rick Porcello. So they'll actually have a chance to score some runs. But they didn't really give a great account of themselves in Cincinnati. What were a couple of the problems?
I mean, they didn't score. They had 7 home runs in the first game that they won on Thursday night, and then they scored 6 runs total the next 3 games. We have seen this kind of with the offense where it kind of goes through a little bit of a dry spell. I frankly just think this is kind of ebb and flow of the season, and they just had a poor weekend of poor execution. Because it was not that they weren't getting opportunities to score. They just weren't getting the big hit to break innings open or to get runs home. It was ugly, and you didn't like to watch it. It was frustrating to watch, but I don't think it's anything to be concerned with big picture. I just think they happened to play a poor weekend of baseball, and they just happened to do it against a last-place team, which kind of exaggerates it. But I remember the team, with Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, in an August pennant race, got swept at home by a terrible Astros team.
Right,
those Phillies teams that won 5 straight division titles, they would always struggle against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh when the Pirates weren't very good. So this type of thing happens. Doesn't excuse it, but I think it's more of just a blip on the radar, and I would be surprised if it carried over up into Fenway.
Asdrubal Cabrera, adding him in, what does that do for the infield for the Phillies?
It gives them depth. It gives them the opportunity to maybe not have to milk as many at-bats out of Scott Kingery as they had, who's been up and down to probably be the most gracious here as a rookie. I think Cabrera's a professional hitter. can hit the ball out of the ballpark, can play all over the infield. I think it's a really good add by the Phillies. I think it lengthens the lineup. And the most important thing is that they don't have to face him anymore, because that guy absolutely killed Phillies pitching. I think he hit something like 9-12 against the Phillies in his career with the Mets. So it's nice to have him on this side instead of facing him. But I think that's a good move, and I think it sends a message that the front office believes they are not just building for the future, but they think they can win now.
Yeah, it's interesting because Newcomb carried the no-hitter into the ninth inning for the Braves. The Braves have not played well in 3 weeks. I think they're, 6 and 13, their last 19. Mm-hmm. So the Phillies have been helped out by the fact that the alleged pursuers aren't pursuing.
Yeah, I mean, Washington has just had one of those years where it just has never gotten started. You know, they're just, all the pistons aren't firing. Braves have been a great story, a lot like the Phillies. This is really the first extended run, I think, for the Braves this year, where they have been really inconsistent. And, you know, it's maybe the Phillies dodged a bit of a bullet this weekend in Cincinnati. You do lose those 3 games. You lose in ugly fashion. You lose to a bad team. And you still come out alone in first place with a game-and-a-half cushion. So, you know, I think they're going to be okay. I do, like I said, everybody keeps waiting for Washington to start closing on the outside. I don't think they're really built for that. I think they might actually make a couple of trades here at the deadline that might signal it the other way. And then it'll come down to the Phillies and the Braves, and it'll be fun to watch 2 young teams who haven't been there in a few years battle for it down the stretch.
And then there's the next part. There are 3 or 4 relief pitchers that might still be on the market. Would the Phillies be interested in any of them?
I think so. I think you can never have enough bullpen arms. The bullpen's been a work in progress for the Phillies this year. It's been better since the promotion of Seranthony Dominguez, who's been really good as kind of Gabe Kapler's silver bullet in the late innings.
Yeah.
I think what would be great, and this is probably easier said than done, but you know, if they could get a guy earlier, they were in the mix with Zach Britton. If they could get somebody like that could kind of be the ninth inning guy, and then they could use Dominguez, you know, in a high leverage situation throughout a game, and still have a quality, competent late game arm that's used to getting the final 3 outs. I think that would really make things better in the bullpen. But I think the return of Pat Neshek from injury has helped a lot. And all of a sudden, the bullpen is not the liability it was, say, 6-7 weeks ago, when it was really kind of close your eyes and hope for the best.
Always great to have you with us, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Your station for news, weather, business, and CBS Sports Radio. News Radio 1070 WKOK Sunbury and on WKOK.com.